It's just so nice to be here today, and I really hope that everyone has their seatbelts on today. When I'm getting close to the end, I'm going to show you a preview of what I'm going to show you next week, and next week you're going to need shoulder straps and seatbelts. What's going on over in Europe right now, and all the religions other than Bible-believing Christians, I'm going to tie it all in together. And take a good look. I want you to look right here. I want you to look for moons. I want you to look for black boxes and moons. Very carefully in these images that are coming up. And I'm calling this today, I Am Lucifer 5, Follow the Money and the Black Box. Pastor Gaines last week, when he was preaching, said just follow the money, and today we're going to follow the money. So what's this big attraction? I mean, in the Muslim they have the Kaaba, which everybody bows to. That's their largest idol. Everybody bowing to a black box. By the way, how many sides does a box have? A cube? Does anybody know how many sides it has? When you think a box, you think 4, but it's a cube. It's got 6 sides. But anyhow, everyone's bowing to the 6-sided idol. Everybody in the world bows to this thing that's Muslim. It's an idol, guys. It's the biggest, most obvious idol. But it's also full of idols. I can't show you this week. It's full of idols, that black box. And I want you to watch for the black boxes. Watch for black smoke. Black boxes and moons. Very carefully in these images. I'm going to ask you some questions. Okay. So what attracts everyone? It's an idol in plain sight. It's the well of Zamzam. In Islam, it's the well of Zamzam. That's built over the well of Zamzam. What is the well of Zamzam? That's when Hagar was sent away from Abraham, and her son Ishmael was dying of thirst, and she put the boy within a bow shot to die. And she cried out to the Lord. And the Lord opened her eyes and showed her where the water is. This well of Zamzam. Okay. So, it's located, I'll just tell you a little bit about it. The Zamzam well is located within the Masjid al-Haram in Mecca, Saudi Arabia. And at the Kaaba, which is the holiest place in Islam. Now, according to Islamic belief, it is a miraculous generated source of water from God, which began thousands of years ago with Ishmael. He was thirsty and kept crying for water. Well, I didn't quite find that part in the scripture, but God heard the lad. I didn't find in the scripture where he was crying for water, but his mom was. His mom was crying for the lad. But maybe it's there and I missed it. Millions of pilgrims visit this place each year when performing the Hajj and pilgrimage in order to drink its water. They're going there to drink the water from Zamzam. Now they're doing a ritual when they're there. They're doing rituals, and we're going to look at the rituals they're doing today, and how it ties in with the Roman Catholic Church, and how it ties in with the Charismatics today. We're going to go to Genesis 21 for this, and I hope you're going to see all these images before I'm done here, but I'll just read Genesis 21:14. And Abraham rose up early in the morning and took bread and a bottle of water, and gave it unto Hagar, putting it on her shoulder. And the child sent her away, and she departed and wandered into the wilderness of Beersheba. Genesis 21:19, a little further down. And God opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water, and she went and filled the bottle with water and gave the lad to drink. That's the well of Zamzam. Now, did we go through all the images already? Yeah, okay. So you can get video 1 ready, just don't start it yet. It's called The Muslims Enter. Now, how many religions did you guys see representing a black box and smoke here? How many different religions did you notice up there? Let's say 1, 2, 3. Anybody got a wild guess? How many religions you saw up there in those images? All of them. Except Bible-believing Christians. All of them. Including the Hindu religions. And they all had either a moon, black smoke, or a black box. Or all 3. Interesting. Okay, but we're going to get there, but not right now. Video 1, the Muslims Enter Act. That'll be, that'll be the funeral videos. Now we're going to have to go back 10 years in time to show you what's going on today. We're going back 10 years. There is time travel in the Bible. It's full of it. One day I'll talk about that.
Charlie, this crowd is just the same as it looked back in 1978. The St. Peter's Square completely filled. And it reminds me of the fact that what we're seeing here today is the ancient heartbeat of the church reasserting itself. No matter how spectacular a pontificate is, and this one was certainly spectacular, the third longest papacy ever, and an amazing figure of a pope who helped advance the cause of nonviolence in the world, no matter how spectacular, that pope will be buried with the same basic ceremony that all the others were. So we're seeing here the long continuation of it. I remember those crowds in 1978 filling the square here. The same ceremony with the coffin in the same place it was then. John Paul, of course, amazed the world with his ability to bring out enormous crowds. When he took his first trip in 1979 to Mexico, 5 million people one day. People had never seen such a crowd as that, and throughout his pontificate, he brought out enormous crowds. And
You guys hear that? 1978, 5 million. I worked in Mexico for a year. 5 million Mexicans came to see Pope John Paul II. These people were so poor. The going rate was $7 per month that I was told I could only pay the workers. I give them 14. I give them the rest under the table. Because that's what all the costs and per views. And the government wouldn't allow me to pay more than $7 a month to these people. Mexico, these poor people, millions of them went to see this Pope. They found the money. Everywhere I went in Mexico, every farmhouse, any farmer that had a little bit of money, he would have a shrine with Mary in it. Every single place. I worked all over the country. Yeah. So, Muslims, why would the Muslims go see the Pope at his funeral? Interesting. Okay, we're not going there yet, but let's go to video 2. President Khomeini of Iran.
To get something of a glimpse of the funeral, but basically what they will see is the funeral on giant television screens that have been set up along the way. President Khatami of Iran, who has come here, and it's interesting, one of the 3 nations that President Bush said is part of the axis of evil, and yet he will be seated not far from President Bush, who we are told is on his way here. One of actually 3 presidents, 2 ex-presidents, and President Bush and Presidents Clinton and...
The axis of evil, and they're sitting together holding hands at the funeral of the Pope. Wow! Go on. Video 3, leaders and governors. What you're looking at as we speak here, as we begin our coverage, is the arrival of the dignitaries, foreign dignitaries. There are representatives of close to 100 nations here. There you see Prime Minister Tony Blair and his wife. He has just announced, of course, there will be an election in Great Britain early in May. Was here for the... And there's Prince Charles arriving just behind the Prime Minister. Okay, and then go to video 5, United Nations. Revelation 18:9.
We can see Polish flags, Danish flags, flags from Africa and all parts of Europe. I can see over in the distance a Canadian flag as well, and several Texas flags here in the crowd. This is truly an international crowd of admirers for Pope John Paul, people who have come a long distance in many cases to pay their respect.
Okay, we're in Revelation 18:9. And the kings of the earth who have committed fornication and lived deliciously with her shall bewail her and lament for her, and they shall see the smoke of her burning. Video 6, what goes into a pope's coffin when he dies? Meanwhile, guys, go to James 1:27.
But those private rites inside St. Peter's Basilica will really involve the placement of John Paul's body into the coffin. For the past 3.5 days, as you know, literally hundreds of thousands of people have filed past the funeral bier, getting a look at John Paul's body, waiting for hours and hours and hours for only a few seconds in the presence of the body. But those rites of the placement of the body into the coffin will occur behind the doors of the basilica. There will be a pouch of coins that have been minted during John Paul's papacy, also placed in the coffin, as well as a scrolled account of his papacy. And then a white silk veil will be put over his face to represent his look at the Father, and also to evoke baptism. And then the coffin will be closed.
Did they put a Bible with him? Did he put words of God with him? A bag of money! And it was not just money, guys. It was money, a bag of gold coins They print their own money? They're their own country? Did you guys know that?
Yes.
Wow. Okay, so, what about the orphans and widows? Putting bags of gold in a Pope's coffin? What about the orphans and widows? God's Word tells us to help the orphans and widows. Not to bury our money with us. You know, there's actually religions and customs where they put coins and stuff in your eyes when you die, so you can enter into the next world and stuff like that. Yeah. But anyhow, I promise you guys, James 1:27. Let's go to James 1:27. Pure religion and undefiled before God, and the Father is this, to visit the fatherless and widows in their affliction, and to keep himself unspotted from the world. The Pope took the world with him, an account of everything he did in the world, and bags of money. Okay, so no words of God with him. Okay, so let's go to, well, I want you, first of all, Peter, who supposedly the Catholic Church said was the first Pope. The Catholic Church says he was the first Pope. Well, that's not true. So, let's go to Acts 8:20, and if you can't get there, I'm just going to read it out, because we're going to get to another video right away. And I'll prove to you that. But Peter said unto him, Thy money perish with thee. Peter said, Thy money perish with thee, and this Pope buries his money with him? So that's against what Peter said. And Peter's supposed to be the first Pope? No. The scriptures don't line up to that. The King James Bible doesn't line up to that, guys. Maybe some other versions do, but we'll get there later. So when the Vatican collapses, and it will, I want you to get ready for video 7, Zach, the Vatican's colossal wealth. The whole world's going to collapse. We still see something in Suriname happening right now. It's got nothing to do with the world. It's got to do with Suriname. And Suriname may go to 3,000 for one. I saw it in other countries. I tell you, my grandfather, when he was alive, and my father were getting conversations, and they both fought in the war. Just wait. And over in Germany, the Deutschmark went so high, it was like almost $1 trillion for $1 US. So people would get their money, you have to put it in a wheelbarrow, and you need so much money just to buy a loaf of bread. And you got your wheelbarrow, and you run to the store before everybody else, because you don't want to miss this, eh? You might have 3 loaves of bread left. And the wheelbarrow doesn't fit in the door. And you get the money out, as much as you can carry, and you get into the store, and you come back, you get the rest of the money because you couldn't carry it all. And guess what? Somebody dumped the money out and stole the wheelbarrow. Because the money was worthless. And I remember my dad and my grandpa always talking about these stories. It was just amazing what they were talking about. And then I saw it in Mexico. Then I saw it in Suriname. And we're starting to see it in Suriname again. But what's about to happen is going to involve the whole world. It's going down, guys. It's going down. So Revelation 18:19. Let's just see what God says about this. And they cast dust on their heads and cried, weeping and wailing, saying, I'm going to read the rest of the scripture after we play video 7, please, Zach.
The Vatican rules over approximately 2 billion of the world's 6.1 billion people. The colossal wealth of the Vatican includes enormous investments with the Rothschilds in Britain, France, and the USA, and with giant oil and weapons corporations like Shell and General Electric. The Vatican solid gold bullion worth billions is stored with the Rothschild-controlled Bank of England and the U.S. Federal Reserve Bank. The Catholic Church is the biggest financial power, wealth accumulator, and property owner in existence, possessing more material wealth than any bank, corporation, giant trust, or government anywhere on the globe. The Pope, who is the visible ruler of this colossal global wealth, is one of the richest men on earth. While 2/3 of the world earns less than $2 a day, and 1/5 of the world is underfed or starving to death, the Vatican hoards the world's wealth, profits from it on the stock market, and at the same time preaches about giving. How did the Pope and Vatican accumulate all that wealth over the millennium? One method was to put a price tag on sin. Many bishops and popes actively marketed guilt, sin, and fear for profit by selling indulgences. Worshippers were encouraged to prepay for sins they hadn't yet committed and get pardoned ahead of time. Those who didn't pay up risked eternal damnation in Satan's oven. Pope Leo X rebuilt St. Peter's Basilica, selling tickets out of hell and tickets to heaven. During the Dark Ages, the Catholic Church not only hoarded the wealth they collected from the poor, but hoarded knowledge. They kept the masses ignorant and in the dark by denying them a basic education.
That's the Catholic Church, friends. Okay, now, Revelation 18:19. And they cast dust on their heads and cried, weeping and wailing, saying, Alas, alas. Notice there's two alases there, not just one. Alas, alas, that great city wherein were made rich all the ships in the sea by reason of her costliness. For in 1 hour she is made desolate. That's what's going to happen. This place is going to be destroyed. The whole Vatican City, the whole country, bang! In one shot, 1 hour. Now the people in the pews don't know all this stuff, and they don't care. Why? Because they're under Mary's spell. We saw it last week. They don't care. Oh, they're just holding their hands up to all this. They don't care. They're under the spell. They're under the spell of that devil Mary. Not the Mary of the King James Bible. That's another Mary. Okay. Now, at the top, wait. I got a news flash yesterday. You guys got to hear this news flash. This came off one of the biggest news stations here. The United States Embassy in Italy has issued a security alert to all Americans abroad, warning them to avoid locations that have been identified as potential targets for terrorist attacks. Now, they had a whole list. Guess what was on the top of the list? The top of the short list was St. Peter's Basilica in the Vatican City. It's about to go, guys. In front of our eyes. It's about to go. They're making plans. Who's making plans? We'll see. Revelation 18:18. If you're still in Revelation. And cried when they saw the smoke of her burning, saying, What city is like unto this great city? Now, when I've tried to share these things with my charismatic friends, Catholic friends, all these guys, they just go deaf. They go deaf. I need your best ear today, guys. I need your best ear. Because you've got to get this in your hearts, because it's going to help these guys. If you have family and that stuff. Now, that's why we need to preach the gospel to them. Just preach the gospel to them. Give them the words of God. Preach the gospel. Don't try and change their minds with all that stuff. It doesn't work. You can try. Especially if you get them to read the scriptures that I gave you last week. You can try. But, why? Because you can't serve God and mammon. These Roman Catholics all serve mammon. The Pope teaches them that. Burying himself with money? What's he teaching these guys? Okay, so I want to go, I'm just going to show you a little bit about that, and I'll tell you why. I'm going to read the scriptures to you. You don't have to go to them. You can mark them down. You can check all this out yourself. Matthew 6:24. No man can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or else he will hold to the one and despise the other. Ye cannot serve God and mammon. That's why all these big charismatic churches with all these people getting all these tithes and offerings and these seed money, they get so much money, they can't serve God and mammon. Those men are all lost. You know, the biggest church here in Suriname, the biggest, fastest growing church, which is Lopos, the apostle, well, there's only 12 apostles in the Bible, he calls himself an apostle. He now says that he is a seer. And these things that we saw on the videos last week, he says he is these things.
She appears as a living, breathing, three-dimensional lady, enveloped in exquisite light. Seers, when describing her, admit that the Queen of Heaven transcends human description.
It's just amazing, but I can't get there today. But very interesting what's going on there. So we're going to go to, now I read that to you, you cannot serve God and mammon. And it says, in 1 Timothy 6:10, for the love of money is the root of all evil. Now I'm only going to read the first part. This is God's words. The love of money is the root of all evil. Now we know that, but you know all the other Bible versions don't say that. They teach you something else, which is going to get you to follow this guy. What do they teach you? Let's go to the NASB. For the love of money is a root of all sorts of evil. So the King James Bible is telling us all evil. The other Bibles say, well, this evil, that, they get to pick and choose. They become the final authority. God is no longer the final authority. If you don't have a King James Bible, guys, you're in trouble. We give them free in this church. Anyone doesn't know that? You need a King James Bible, you get one free today. Video 8. Up out of the How many people know there's 5 pillars of Islam? We don't study Islam here. Some came from Islamic background. There's 5 pillars. Do you know that if you don't do all 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you're not saved? You don't go to heaven? This is one of the last ones. Circling this Kaaba, this black box, this 6-sided box, with the well of Zamzam underneath. I can't get everywhere today. I'm only going to tease you. But next week, you're not going to need just seatbelts. You're going to need shoulder straps and armor to get through what I'm going to talk about. Meanwhile, Revelation 9:2. Let's see what God says. And he opened the bottomless pit. I want you to study these scriptures for next week. Then arose the smoke out of the pit, and the smoke of a great furnace. As the smoke of a great furnace. The sun and the air were darkened by reason of the smoke out of the pit. Then we go down a little further, Revelation 17:8. The beast that thou sawest was, and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit, and go into perdition. He's going to ascend out of the bottomless pit. Big clue. And they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names were not written in the book of life, and from the foundation of the world, when they behold the beast that was, and is not, and yet is. Study that. Was, and is not, and yet is. I'm going to tell you what that means next week. Meanwhile, I want to take you to a little preview of next Sunday's November 29th introduction. And you're going to have to read Deuteronomy 28, 49 to 52 to prepare yourselves for what you're going to see next week. Now, preview Sunday's November 29th intro, Zach. 49 to 52. I'm going to show you exactly what's going on. This is going to shock you guys. You're going to want to see what I'm going to teach next week. But study Deuteronomy 28, 49 to 52. That's going to be critical. So you understand everything I teach about next week. And this is what's going on in Europe today. But I've cut it into this little tiny little video just to kind of show you guys how scary this is. And it's on its way to America. We might see it manifested in America this next week. I don't know exactly when. It's coming to Suriname too. Get ready. Read these scriptures so you know what's coming up against you.
The other side of this tragedy is how it will change Europe. Non-Western migrants had already been flooding into Europe for decades. Leaders refused to stop it.
We are afraid. We are in danger every day, every minute. They're coming inside, the police. They want to kill each other. You have to do something. Someone has to protect us. They are in our houses. We are the victims. We are not them. We have to live like before. We have to live our life. They took it for us. We're not in war. They are. They have to take them from here. It's a city. It's not a place for people like them.
ولكنهم فقدوا إخصابهم ويبحثون عن إخصاب عندنا ننجب منهم لأننا سوف نفتح بلادهم. خذوا اللاجئين سنطلبهم منكم قريبا.
You know what that Ivan said? We're going to breed them all so we make more Muslim children. They're going after your daughters. They're coming to take your daughters away. Study Deuteronomy 28, but I want to show you a little bit today about how we interconnect the charismatics with Islam. Islam all smoke hookahs. Do you saw that? The hookah smoking one there? Modern hookah, top one. No, go back. Top one. Click that. Click the slideshow. Yeah, top one. Yeah. Then make a slideshow out of those pictures. Let's just quickly go through the slideshow. And now you see all these in Islam they just love smoking this hookah, and a lot of them put opium in it and other drugs. You know the charismatics, the biggest charismatic pastors do this too. Once you put all your tithes and offerings in those big buckets with thousands, 10, 20,000 people in the congregation, they go in back rooms and do this too. Brother Rob's crazy, right? Why would Brother Rob be telling us this? Are you trying to cut people down? No, I'm trying to tell you the truth and warn you. Go to video 9, hookah opium party after the services. Many hands. Opium's out.
I'll tell them what they're going to sing next. Hello?
Counting the money. This is no joke, guys. You see all these false prophets? You see them on TBN? All these guys on TV, and you're going to send them your money so they can smoke it away? Are you kidding me? Wake up, guys. Thank you very much.